Good morning, everyone. It is morning here in New Zealand. It is 9 o'clock in the morning, just after 9 o'clock in the morning. Welcome to my birthday live stream. I'm going to be here for an hour, maybe a little bit more. This is the TechPacker. I am Sarb, Johal, and it's really, really good to see you here. I do already have one comment. The first comment today. And it is Dave Marriott. You're a day late. It's my birthday today. Happy birthday for tomorrow, mate. Well, this is actually time travel. It's actually tomorrow already here in New Zealand. It is the 24th of May. Happy birthday, Dave. Hope you're having a really good day. Let me know where you are right now. I think you're in the UK. Can't absolutely remember, but let me know. I think there's 6 people watching right now. So if you are here, let me know where you are, and I'll give you a shout out. If you drop a comment, you will appear on screen, just like iAngel20 Ian from Switzerland has sent me a message just now. It is the 23rd still at 2300 hours, 11 o'clock at night in Switzerland. It's a late night for you. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. It is really, really nice to have you here. I am really enjoying actually mucking around with this EV Mux kind of live stream thing that I've been using. So it's been really fun setting this up over the last day or so. And so it's not been very steep a learning curve for this. I have used just kind of the webcam on YouTube for the last few live streams that I've done, just because I didn't really want to kind of get into learning a new platform again. And then I did muck around with StreamYard back in 2019, and I was thinking about using StreamYard again. But then I got an email from a really good kind of like source that I use called Primal Video. So it's Justin Brown and his brother who run that, and it's excellent. It's really, really good way of kind of like keeping in touch with kind of what's going on in YouTube world, and they do some really good recommendations. They have a load of free content as well that's available on YouTube. And then they put me in touch with something called Camo Studio for iPad, which I tried using last week, but that failed miserably. It really didn't work. But they did say EV Mux was something that I should look into. And so EV Mux is a web-based streaming platform, but you can do all kinds of like really cool things and just like transition straight into like other pages like this, showing what I can do and get up on screen. And so this is my coffee.com TechPacker page where you can drop a tip, drop me the price of a cup of coffee, and I can get that on screen easily and just transition into that, which is like really nice. And then I can also get this kind of chat box that's up here on screen with just a click of a mouse too, because I've already preset that screen. And so this is really cool. I really, really like this. So let me just go back into the normal screen here. Oh, I just zoomed myself. There we go. Let's get back into the normal screen here. And you can see how good this looks. I think it comes out in about 1080p. I think that's what you can get. And this is all on the free account for EVMux, which is, I think, really fantastic. So yeah, memberships and super chats are available. If you fancy it, if you want to drop me a little kind of like birthday present, if you've been watching my channel for a while and you think that this has been really good value for you and you've got a lot out of my videos, I've got a lot more coming up over the next few weeks and months. I'll go into that a little bit as we get towards the end. But I've also really enjoyed being here and making YouTube videos, particularly kind of like since, I don't know, last quarter of 2023 and now through into almost the middle of 2024 now. I can't believe how quickly time goes, but it's been so much fun traveling and then making gear videos and gadget videos as well, cameras, how to pack, how to get through security, all this kind of like stuff that's around traveling. And so you're going to see a lot more of that from me, I hope. And I'm going to try and keep up this kind of 3 videos per week. This is a special live stream, but from about the middle of June, I'm hoping to drop a weekly live stream on a Wednesday morning New Zealand time. So it'll be a Tuesday for most of the rest of the world at various times. Probably going to be Wednesday around about 8 a.m. So about an hour earlier than this. So yeah, we'll see how that works. But let's just drop into the comments again and we'll see what's going on here. Let's have a look. We'll get, it will just give me the comments anyway. It'll just let me have a look at those. Let's just make the screen a little bit smaller. And thank you, Angel 2023. Happy birthday. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Had a really nice quick breakfast with my girls before they got dropped off to school, kindy, and my oldest daughter is doing this like tough girl mud run this morning as part of like her school PE curriculum. So she's going to get extremely muddy running this obstacle course with some of her friends, which is going to be really cool. And I can't wait to see the photos of that. It's quite a long way away. They're taking a coach to get out there and back. So yeah, they're going to have a really fun time, I hope. But thank you. Yeah. Aiden, nice to see you here again. It's really lovely to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, thanks. I am intending to have a great day. I don't really have much planned for the rest of the day once I'm done here with you guys, but I am looking forward to hanging out with you here for the next hour or so. So yeah, that's going to be really cool. So yeah, but ask me anything, right? Drop me stuff in the comments. If there's good questions or good comments or queries that you've got about my recent videos or travel or anything like that, or even just about me, drop me a question in the comment and I'll bring them up on stage and then I will try and answer your comments if I can. Can't promise to get around to everything, but hopefully we'll get through a fair amount of them. Hearts to you as well. Ian, thank you so much. Really, really cool. Yeah, 20 more subs since yesterday, almost at 10,000 subs. Yeah, that's the big one, right? I'd love to get to 10,000 subs. I am going to be putting out a video once I do get there talking about how long it's taken me to get to 10,000 subs, right? You get all these videos of people who like blowing up like Simon Sulek. There's another video creator called Solo and Silver, which I've seen recently, who has blown up really big. She's at like 40, 50K subs already. She's barely put out any videos. And yet there's me with 400 videos, 350, 400 videos now, and I'm still not at 10K. Now there's a long story around that, and I kind of like disappeared off YouTube for a while, and I will go into that at some point when I make my 10K video. But I'm not going to count my chickens. I'm going to wait until I get to that 10K mark before I make that video. but I am looking forward to getting there. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you do fancy helping me get over that, please do. And if you are a subscriber and you are a regular here, then please share my channel with your friends and see if it's something that they'd be interested in, right? If they are interested in it, then always a subscription is good. And subscription, yeah, it's kind of like it's a social proof thing these days. It doesn't really matter so much in terms of the algorithm, but it's nice to be over 10K because it's something that I can show to kind of like other, like if I'm looking for a partnership of working with a particular brand, it's really nice to be able to say, hey, I'm over 10K. But it's interesting. Brands sometimes these days are looking for that kind of nano influencer, micro influencer, because they're more able to get their communities engaged because they have fewer people. So they're more likely to kind of interact with comments and things like that. And they're more sometimes closely followed than by some of the big creators. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd love to be a big creator, but this is working pretty well for me right now with your support, and I'd love to continue getting your support and to grow my channel as well. So yeah, thanks, Ian. It's really, really good of you to notice and to wish me well with that. Let's go, go, go. Hey, Paul. How you doing, mate? Hope you got a good night's sleep. I read the thing about the seagull dropping a dead rat on your neighbour's roof. That doesn't sound particularly great. And I think they're new neighbours as well. It's quite a welcome. Yes, there is cake. My wife is in the middle of making it. She's at work now, though. But we may delay it until tomorrow because it could be crammed at the end of the day. So yeah, it could be morning tea for tomorrow before we have the cake. But don't worry, there will be video. I will post that in a video coming soon. So yes, there will be cake. I do believe I may have heard them talking about carrot cake. It might be an iced carrot cake, which is one of my favorites. I think last year I got a lemon cake, which is also one of my favorites. Chocolate cake's all right, but we have so much chocolate cake because the girls, I have 3 little girls, well, 1 medium girl, 2 little girls. They all have chocolate cakes. We have ended up having quite a lot of chocolate cake. So yeah, it's good to get a break from chocolate cake every now and again. But yeah, nice to see you here, Paul. Really, really good to see you. And hopefully we'll catch up with for a coffee soon. We had to cancel a coffee date, everyone, a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully we'll get to do that again soon. Cheers, Adam. Run, Adam, run. Thank you so much for coming and joining me here today. And thank you for the birthday wishes as well. I love it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to come here today and say hello. That's always lovely to see people here. All right. 10K, that's just 6 miles between runners. You can do that. Do you know what? I don't know, Adam, if you are aware of this. I used to run ultra marathons. I used to do I don't know if you've heard this story. Forgive me, everyone else, if you've heard this story before, but I used to not run at all. I used to hate running. And then I kind of turned 40, wanted to do something that was going to be kind of like active and get into. And then typical me, not only do I get into it, but I get really into it. So I did the Couch to 5K program, thought that was fun, managed to run for 40 minutes. Once I hit that, then I started running 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, ran my first marathon in, 2011, the Berlin Marathon, which is fantastic. Ran the London Marathon as well in the following spring. And I've run a couple of ultra marathons as well as 8 marathons in total. But since then, kids came along and then I've been trying to get back into running. Can't seem to get over the 5K mark without injuring a calf muscle. So I probably need to go and see a podiatrist or something like that to try and figure out what I'm doing wrong. Physiotherapy post-running isn't really doing it for me. So I need to kind of figure that out. So, but yeah, 10K, used to be able to do that, no problem at all, if I was thinking just about running. But 10K subscribers, yeah. I mean, it's a team effort, right? I'm not going to get there without all of you helping. So yeah, maybe we'll stretch that analogy and metaphor a bit longer. Ian, what do I think about drones? What do I think about drones? Well, I'll be honest. I love them. I think they're really, really good. The only problem I have with drones is that I live within the 5K radius of Wellington Airport, my local airport, which is actually a domestic, really busy airport, international airport. The runway is so short. There's not much flat land here in Wellington, so the runway is so short it can only really fly to the islands and Australia. That's the biggest planes that it can handle. But anyway, I can't fly a drone anywhere close to where I live. It's against the law, even if it's under 250 grams, because I have a DJI Mini 2, which I don't think I've used after the first sort of like 2 or 3 months. I have to travel to go and use it, and they've really clamped down on a lot of the places where you can use drones these days in New Zealand and around the world. Like I was going to take it with me to Japan, but during kind of like lockdown and then post lockdown, with the pandemic, they pretty much just banned drones everywhere unless you had like a special license. It used to be fairly lax, but not anymore. So, short answer is I love drones, but I can't really use them where I live. Um, so yeah, that's the problem, my angel. Thank you very much for being a member of my channel. Really, really appreciate it. Everybody else, I've got a couple of members now. Ta-da! Drum roll. I love this. I didn't even advertise it. I just kind of had it quietly sitting there in the background. But I am going to kind of like advertise it now. If you are thinking about perhaps supporting my channel, it's really, really low cost for one tier and the slightly higher tier where you will get videos. Some videos you'll get before everybody else. So yeah, just have a think about that. If it's something that you'd like to do in order to support my channel, there's a few other things that you can do too. You can super chat right now on this live stream, and you can also tip me on my kind of Ko-fi page as well. You can do that right there. If I just take that banner or that comment off, and then you will be able to see it. There's me, Ko-fi.com at the TechPacker, and you can use the QR code thingy as well. Do people still use QR codes? Do you use QR codes? It's been a while since I've seen them around. It used to be around all the time when you kind of like were checking in, checking out when we're in lockdown and then the pandemic and everything. Don't see them around so much now. So I'm just wondering how much people actually use them now. Yeah. All right, next one. Paul, you've made a huge mistake. You mean is there cake for us? Yeah, man. I will try and save some, but if not, I'm sure we'll be able to sort out some other cake. We'll go somewhere with cake, right? Thank you. Happy birthday. Yes, we need to meet up real soon, catch up for coffee. And I want to know more about how your book is doing. Paul, check out Paul if you haven't already. Paul, if you want to drop a link for your book, I'd be happy to put that up on screen now, right? Paul has written some fiction. He's working on his second book right now. He's working in this kind of like collective agreement with a few other authors as well. You know, the publishing process is tricky in the world now in 2024. So yeah, I'm keen to help anybody out. If you want to drop me out something that you would like me to help you with, then please let me know. Drop me a comment here and I'll see what I can do, right? That's an open invitation. Let me know what I can do to help you. Because, hey, right, we're friends now. So yeah, let me know. What can I do? Hi, Angel. Thank you for the mud race. Yeah, I saw her off this morning. She was all kitted out. She had spare clothes. We had to convince her to take warm clothes because it's not a warm day out there today. It's cold. It's kind of grey. It's not raining, but they're not the first people to have used this course this week. So yeah, it will be kind of churned up and muddy. They'll be having to crawl under netting and go through mud puddles, pools up to her neck, from what I understand, and they're going to be kind of like lifeguards watching them and everything. But her and her friends have kind of like teamed up. They're going to do it together and help each other out. They're not going to go slowly, but they're not aiming to kind of like win either. They kind of want to see it as a challenge that they're going to do together. And I love that about her, right? She's in her cricket team as well. She's a really, really good team player. You can hear, she's got a loud voice. You can hear her bellowing encouragement to the rest of her team from 3 fields away. I'm not kidding you. She's got a powerful voice. She's a powerful girl, and I love that she's taking this on. Yeah. So thank you. I will pass on your best wishes, hopefully after she's completed it. And you love carrot cake. Can I send some to Switzerland? I think border control may have something to do with that, but virtually, I will be sending you cake. No doubt about it. You can count on that coming towards you. All right. On a more serious note, says Paul. Really enjoyed my recent vid with the comparison of the various 360 models. Thank you very much. I guess that's the Insta360 kind of like X3 versus X4 video, which I put out recently. Again, I still think they're both excellent cameras. I have both. If I had an X3 and I was using it for kind of like, just to sum it up, if I was using it just for social media, I'd probably stick with the X3. But if I was interested in kind of using that video at higher resolution, for landscape videos like you're watching now, then I think the X4 is if you've got the cash, is a worthy replacement. If you're really interested in taking 360 photos or doing 360 kind of like tours, I don't know if there's a big reason to upgrade from the X3. You'd have to watch more specialized videos on 360 tours. It's not something that I do, but certainly in terms of 360 photos, there's not a huge upgrade, if any at all, from going from the X3 to the X4. So Paul, you've got an actual question here. Isn't it interesting how one company can make intentionally cameras suitable for different kinds of vlogging? Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. If I think about the different ways that I use my Go3, Ace Pro, and my X4 for vlogging, if you watch my roundup video that I put out earlier this week, at the end of my Japan trip, I talk about how I've used all of these cameras, and I barely used the X3 at all because I was more interested in making landscape vlogs. It's great for social media, and I chucked in a few little bits and pieces every now and again, but I barely used it. I mainly use the Ace Pro. But if I wanted a really super convenient experience, it was the Go3. That was the one that was like, I just don't want hassle today. I just want to go out with a low footprint, low hassle camera. I'm going to record in 2.7K and I can just smash it out over to my iPad Pro really easily and just kind of drag the files over using that USB-C connector on the iPad Pro. The Go3 was a no-brainer for me. But, there are different styles of vlogging. The Ace Pro is really good with that flip-up screen. You're thinking about how reliable it is, how kind of indestructible it is. It's great. But you will also have seen, and I'll talk about it when we get onto this, I've had some problems with the Ace Pro. I've noticed some problems with the Ace Pro around the minimum focus distance. And I will show you some of that in this live stream when we get to it, right? So we will talk about that a little bit more, Paul. That's encouraging you to stick around. Paul, okay, no problem, man. If anyone here is interested, drop me a note here, because the best way to get it is a bit dependent on where you are. And yeah, that is kind of like modern kind of like publishing and book selling as well. It's kind of difficult to figure out exactly what the best thing is and how to get things to one place from another. That can be tricky. So yeah, I would definitely drop Paul a message, look him up on YouTube, and you should be able to get hold of him there. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just oh, look at this. Nabila, thank you so much. Nabila, am I saying it right? Nabila, and live on the Italian side of Switzerland. Do you know what? My favorite place to ski in Europe when I used to live there was the Italian Alps. And it wasn't necessarily because of the slopes, although they were fun, right? But they're not particularly challenging, but that's okay because I'm not a particularly good skier. But it's the après ski. The food was amazing. Honestly, I think I had some kind of delicious pizza every night when I was there, as well as everything else, all the other treats, all the tiramisu I could handle. It was just wonderful. So yes, skiing in Italy is one of my favorite things to do if I am going to go skiing in Europe. It was just wonderful. But thank you so much, Nabila. I really appreciate it. That's really cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, the super chat button is down there below, everyone. If you want to copy Nabila and give me a birthday present, I will go out and use that for coffee later on today, I'm sure. You love the Go 3, but you only have the iPhone to download the files, and it takes ages. My MacBook Pro is too old to handle the desktop version. Yeah, that is a problem. The Pro Studio from Insta360 does take a lot of resources, and I think it's only supporting kind of like the M versions now, or maybe the i5 or i7 versions. But yeah, it has to be relatively new in order for you to use that. iPhone to download the files, yeah, that can be a problem because you can't use a quick reader. Because you can't take an SD card out of the Go 3 because the memory is built into the camera. And so, yeah, if you have a phone with a lightning connector, it can be a problem. I remember back to the old Go, the original Go. I don't know if you had one, Nabila, or anybody else, but you used to be able to connect the little pod that it came with, even to a lightning connector, lightning connector to an iPhone. It had a little micro USB connector, and you could do that then. You can offload your files and you can just download and do that. I might make a video about the old Go actually and just see how it performs these days compared to the new Go versions and even phones, because it was so cool. I just loved that original Go. It's something that I saw coming out and I went out and bought it myself. Insta360 didn't send me that. I bought that myself and I loved it. Made a ton of videos with it. And I was addicted to the Go series after that. But I've always really been into tiny little small cameras anyway. Same with small phones, right? I have this iPhone 13 mini here. I've been tempted by the bigger phones, but I'm probably going to stick with this for a little bit longer, to be honest. I do love it. But yes, it is a bit of an issue. The Go 3 connecting. I've never really loved the Insta360 connection kind of like protocol and how it connects onto your phone in order to transfer files. I find it clunky. It's got more reliable, but I try not to do it. And that's why I normally record in 2.7K and then bring it over to my iPad Pro, because I can't be asked with it in the workflow. Yeah, it's fun to do social files, but if I'm trying to do like a load of big files with landscape video, even if they're only like 30 seconds long, but I've got like a ton of them, oh my God, it would just add so much to my workflow and my work process. I'm not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, no, I feel your pain with that. Definitely feel your pain with that. There's loads of comments today. This is fantastic. Keep them coming. I got a whole load of content here that I'm going to get through, but let's stick with the comments for now because I love being responsive in real time like this. This is how I wanted a live stream to work, right? This is why I was so disappointed last week when it didn't work. And I do like EV Mux and how it's kind of like letting me go in and out. Let me show you a couple of other things that I can do here. So look, here's a chat box here that you can see the chats coming up, but I can just bring them up onto stage as well. And I can just bring them up here like this one from Vanessa Martinez. Let me read this out for you. I just bought the Insta360 Go 3, great little camera, but new to the 360 Studio app and software, watching tutorials. Thanks for the comparison videos. Hey, my pleasure. I'm loving that you are getting value out of my videos. That's fantastic. It is a great little camera. 360 Studio app has got a lot better since version 5.0. What I wish that they would do is for the 360 content for you to drop more than one clip onto the timeline. That is a pain for me. I stopped using Adobe Premiere Pro back in 2018, 19, and I only use LumaFusion now for my editing, unless I'm getting clips out of 360 Insta360 Studio on purpose. Let me just get this comment out so you can see this. So yeah, I only use LumaFusion, but LumaFusion can only export in fairly low resolution. It doesn't enable me to use, like if I brought out that studio clip from the 8K X4, it still renders out in really low quality. So that's a real problem, but it has no problem rendering up to 4K. Now, somebody else dropped me a comment on my video before earlier on this morning, about They noticed that my Insta360 go-through videos were rendered out in 4K. They were upscale, and they wondered how I did that. Is that something you'd be interested in knowing? Because there's a very particular method that I used to do that. And it seems to work quite well. People are saying, wow, this footage looks really, really good. And they're also, I don't know about you who have the Go3, I'm always surprised by how well the audio does on the Go3. Whatever Insta360 are doing, more times than not, it does quite well. Not so much in wind, because I think all cameras have a problem with wind unless you got kind of some kind of muff covering whatever's going on. That would be really difficult to do with the Insta360 Go3. But I think generally it does really, really well with sound. Let me know your thoughts about that. Okay, let me see. Let's wait. There we go. Let's go back here. We've been there. We've done that. Let's go. Nabila's back again. The first version of Nabila was correct. Great. The food in Italy is always good. Yeah, you know what? I took a day trip when I was back in Europe a few years ago now. Might have been about 12 years ago. And I went to Bologna, and I just hung out in the kind of like the university area. And all I did all day was eat. I just basically went from one cafe to another cafe to another cafe. And I just had a little bit here, a little bit there, and a little bit there. I had coffee here, I had a little glass of Chianti here. It was an amazing, lovely, relaxed day. Yeah, the food in Italy is always good, right? It's always good. Although coffee now, I'm kind of spoiled. Coffee in New Zealand, I don't know if you've been here, but there's a really excellent coffee culture here. More often than not, you're going to get really decent coffee. It's this particular kind of lattes and flat whites and all the rest of it, and espresso coffee. But coffee here is really, really good. Much better than in the UK. I was talking with my friend James yesterday. We went for coffee, and he said the problem with coffee in the UK is they make it like they make tea. They're basically just kind of like just have like it's really weak, and they just drown it in milk, and that's most of the time that's what you're going to get unless you know where you're going in the UK. It's a problem. It really is a problem. Nabila, I can download the files, but then I don't know how to edit them with another editing program. So you mean if you're recording in free frame, then you're not going to be able to edit them with any other kind of like app. You can do it with Studio on your desktop, but that's not something you can do with your Mac, or you use the app on your iPhone, which is why I use the 2.7K video files. Now, I use LumaFusion. You can use Adobe Pro. You can Adobe Premiere, sorry. You can use Final Cut Pro. You can use Final Cut Pro for iPad. Don't really like Final Cut Pro for iPad. I don't find it very intuitive. I end up just like going round and round in circles. LumaFusion I use, and it works really, really well. That's what I use. I've never made a video about my process on LumaFusion, but there's a possibility if I use Camo for iPad that I could do a live stream one day and just take people through very slowly through an edit and how I edit on YouTube using LumaFusion, because it's a pretty simple process. There's not many bells and whistles that I use. I tend to find that people don't necessarily want them. They look kind of flashy, but it's not really necessarily what people want, at least what my audience and you want from me. So yeah, maybe if you think that would be good, drop me a note in here and I'll know. Okay, that would be really cool. Yes, tutorial about editing for the Go3. Okay, all right. So it'll be a particular type. It would just be using 2.7K. I could use freeframe, but I'm not going to. I don't really use it that much. But I do use for things like time lapses and time shifts. So I do take the time to collect those and use them sometimes and put that in my footage. So yeah, we could talk about that. That would be great. Thank you, Nabila. That's a great idea. We can definitely talk about that. All right, let me just bring this back up on screen. Where are we? Here we are. Okay. All right, let's just take this banner off for a little while, and we will just put this one back up, and we will go back down into the comments. Oh my God, yes, says Paul. Coffee in Aotearoa, New Zealand, so much better in the UK. So many good indie coffee shops like the one we use. Yeah, you know what? Raglan Roast is kind of like a mini chain. So we go to a place called Raglan Roast, kind of originated in Hamilton, which is like on the North Island, on the west coast of North Island, near the top, just below kind of like Auckland. That's where they originated, but they have a few shops down here in Wellington and a few other places. I do believe they have one in Nelson as well, which is the top of the South Island. But it's a small kind of like, they roast their own beans, they do all their own thing. They have incredible coffee, really, really nice coffee, really cheap, right? So what you can do here in this place is you can pay $20, which is about, I don't know, £10. What's that? About $12 maybe US. I'm not sure how many euro that would be. I don't know, maybe about 13, 14 euro. And you can get 6 coffees, 6 sort of like standard coffees, or you can get 5 larger ones with milk. So that's like a latte or a flat white. And that's it. That's how much you can get it for if you buy in those blocks at a time. But even then, if you don't, for a white coffee, I think it's $3.50, which is like £1.75. I was in the UK. You're paying like £4, five. No, you're paying like, yeah, £4, £5 sometimes for a coffee. And it's like an okay coffee. It's not a great coffee. And it's an okay amount as well. I was really shocked at like how much it's gone up. And yes, it's gone up a lot here in New Zealand, but if you look around, you can get decent, really, really good value coffee here. So yeah, that's how good the coffee, but in particular, and now I've spoiled it for everyone who goes to Raglan Roast because we're going to be flooded. No, it's okay. Do you know what? Actually, hardly any New Zealanders watch my videos. If I look through the stats, who watches my videos? About 30% of them are Americans. Okay. And then it's about 7 to 8% are from the UK and India. And then after that, it's Canada and the Philippines. I seem to have a growing Australian audience. Got quite a few also from Malaysia and Indonesia, some from Singapore, Germany, quite a few in Germany. And New Zealand's way down the list. It's like kind of like 18, 19, 20. So yeah, I'm not popular in New Zealand. Hardly anybody watches my videos here. I mean, it's a small population, but yeah, that's what happens here. The Italians get heart attacks of the British coffee. Yeah, I don't think it's the strength. I think it's just when you go there and you look at it and you taste it, yeah, that's enough to kind of like give you palpitations itself. It's very average is what I would say. If you're lucky, do you know what? The most reliable coffee I have found, and this is terrible, for like okay coffee that you're not going to throw away and that is passably drinkable and is okay value for money, you're not going to believe me, but it's McDonald's. If you go to McDonald's in the UK, you pay about £2 for it, and it's okay. And at least you know what you're going to get. Because sometimes you just go to a place and you just either end up with a milky mess or something that you're like, what the heck is this? What beans have they used? What's this milk? Why is it so hot? And it's just so unreliable. I think coffee making skills ever since Brexit, perhaps, have gone downhill. No, actually, who am I kidding? They were terrible. They were terrible most of the time. Vanessa, yes, I think you're right. Sounds like British coffee is water with a hint of coffee. Yes, much of the time, I think that is a fairly accurate description. But the thing that you're missing here is that it's milk. It's not just water. It's with a hint of coffee. It's water with a hint of coffee for the extraction, drowned in milk. I don't drink my coffee black. I've tried. I'm not a black coffee drinker. I like to think of myself as possibly being a black coffee drinker. I don't know why. I don't know what image that I have in my head, but I am not a black coffee drinker. I do like a little bit of milk. I have one of these little cups now. This is actually just a cup of decaf tea. It's a discordant cup of tea because it says coffee, please. So yeah, it's the wrong mug for a cup of tea. But yeah, I tend to drink milk in my coffee, but not that much. So yeah, that's what I would describe it as. Nabila says, again, I usually use free frame, so I export both versions of the files. Oh, okay, horizontal and vertical from your iPhone app. Oh, no wonder it takes you so long there, because that would take a while to do both. So do you post like shorts or Instagram reels and things like that? Is that something that you mainly do? Because yeah, then I can see why free frame would be good. I tend not to. I tried posting shorts on this channel before, and I've stopped doing it because yeah, it killed my channel. I don't know what's going on with the YouTube algorithms. And I even tried using like setting up shorts on a separate channel for a while, but it even that, because it was just like pointing to this channel, it just wasn't working for me. So yeah, I don't do that. I do post reels on Instagram. Where else do I post? That's pretty much it, really. I don't really use TikTok that much. Tried using it for a bit, don't really use it. You can find me on Blue Sky and Mastodon, and you can still see my account on X, but I very rarely use it these days. Prefer the old Twitter days. Enough said. Not going to say any more about that. I am going to put a tweet up from somebody else though in a little while. So thank you so much for hanging around with me for so long. It's just so good to have you here today. I'm loving this. This is really good fun. Let me just take this off here, and we will just go into. Let's talk about a few things that have been kind of like on my mind over the last wee while, and maybe yours too. Let's just get this comment off screen. We'll get this banner back up. And yeah, let's see. So yeah, one of the things that I think has been a terrible fail recently is this. This has been absolutely awful. I don't know if you saw the launch of the iPad Pro with that kind of like crushing, just the vice that was coming down and crushing like the paint and all guitars and pretty much all of human creativity. And all you were left with at the end was this kind of like flat bit of very thin metal and glass. And it was awful. I just remember watching it thinking, what on earth are you thinking, Apple? People are scared enough about kind of like AI and kind of like it's stealing creativity from people and replicating it as their own original content. And then you're just basically saying, yeah, this will enable you to do that. I think it was crazy. I think it was just not good at all. And they took it back and they rolled it back, and they were going to roll it on TV and they decided not to. But yeah, I'm doing a keynote on AI later on this year, and it's going to be one of the examples that I use of like, you know, how the public perceive big tech companies and what they're doing. By that time, it'll be old news because this is not until the end of October. But yeah, I just thought it was terrible. But my point here is like, I don't know if you follow Mark Gurman at all. If you don't read Mark Gurman and you're into Apple stuff, I don't know where you've been, but you really should. He's great. He writes for Bloomberg mostly, but you know, he also tweets out on X as well. But the problem that I have with the iPad Pro is that what I want is an integration between iPad OS and Mac OS, because there are things that I can do on my iPad that I love, right? I use it. I don't have a MacBook anymore because I use my iPad so much, particularly my iPad Pro, right? I gave my iPad to my oldest daughter when I upgraded back in 2021. I wrote 3 books on it. I do all my editing on it. I was doing all my editing on my iPad beforehand. It was perfectly good for that. It's just a bit quicker using the M1 chip on my iPad Pro. And having the M1 chip on my iPad Pro means I can do lots and lots of different things on it that I'm not convinced that the M2 or the M3 or even the M4 now is going to deliver me any better value than me being able to do it a bit quicker. The mistake I made with my iPad Pro, because my budget was limited at the time, was that I only got a 256 gigabyte one. These days, I would probably at least get 512 gigs or 1 terabyte. But my problem is here, and let's see what Mark says here. In his quoted post, fun fact, every iPad reviewer just copy-pastes their 2015 review and changes the date. It's true. Nothing has changed. Yeah, these are spec bumps. Every time the iPad Pro is kind of like updated these days, all you're really getting is a spec bump. And yeah, maybe that's useful to you. And maybe you like a brighter screen, and maybe you want a slightly different dimension. Maybe you want a bigger one. Maybe you want a small one. The iPad mini is like, people lust after that. They love it, but it's not a Pro. Marx then goes on to say, my point, the iPad Pro hardware has always been state of the art with intentionally throttled software to not displace the Mac. Until that changes, the product doesn't change. Exactly right. And that's why I'm not upgrading my iPad Pro. I think that that's the problem, is that they have people who basically are on an upgrade cycle that's even slower than their phones, and which is why iPads and iPad Pros come out, well, particularly iPad Pros come out less often. But also, like, if I wanted to get rid of my iPad Pro, I have a Magic Keyboard and I have a pencil that I use with it, and the dimensions have changed with the new iPad Pro because they've changed where the camera is. Instead of it being on the side, it's now on the landscape or the top position of the iPad. And so that changes where you can charge the pencil now, and then that changes the whole of the structure of how the Magic Keyboard fits and integrates with that. So I would have to buy a new Magic Keyboard. Can't remember whether I would have to get a new pencil or not. So it's like it's a whole system upgrade. And on my video, on my Fresh Tech monthly video, I said, I would rather buy an M2 MacBook Air, would cost me $1,000 less than an iPad Pro M4 with Magic Keyboard and pencil. At least $1,000 less, which is just crazy. Now, what I do want is like something that's been rumored for a while, but the rumor mill has been picking up pace recently, of this kind of like integrated MacBook that will run with a touchscreen. And if they did that, if they bought the best of iPad OS and integrated that with a Mac OS, I'd be first in the queue, depending on the price. I would be highly up on that queue. That's what I want. And, I can see now, look at what Microsoft has been doing with the Surface. And now they've got Copilot and AI. I think Apple are really, this is a dangerous point for Apple right now, because I think that they're falling behind. Yes, they have this kind of like new deal that may be coming out. We may hear more about it in WWDC in, I think, about 2 weeks from now, where they may reveal more about what they're going to do with AI and how that's going to fit into their ecosystem and how that's going to work with on-device processing, because I think that they're going to be emphasizing the privacy angle on this. But I think this is a danger point now for Apple, because I think that they're falling apart not only in the generative AI stakes, but I think in terms of the hardware. I don't think that faster processors in iPad Pros or thinner devices or lighter devices, I know people are going to have to be holding these big screens in one hand, and that's going to be useful. Yeah, I totally see that. I don't know where they're going with this. It seems bizarre to me that even that ads, I think, is a really good example of, like, I don't know if that ad would have been kind of like being given the green light in the past. I wonder, like, how did nobody in the room say, there might be a bit of a problem with this ad? Can you see how this might be perceived by people? It just seems bizarre that it's got this far, and I think that this is a danger point for Apple right now. I've seen a few comments just coming in here. Let me just have a look at this. All right. Hey from Utah. Hi, your mum lurking. This is Diane. Sorry you're late. That's okay. We've just been chatting. We just had loads of people in here dropping in lots of comments. It's been great. Yeah, that ad was horrible, right? We've just been talking about how I just don't know how it got green lighted. It was just awful. Nabila, yeah, they got it completely wrong. I agree. I just think it was just so weird that it got out in the public. And then it took them a while to realize how badly it was going down. I sent it to all my friends. I showed it to my wife and just went, just watch this. I'm not going to say anything. Just watch it and just give me your reaction. And she just looked at it aghast at the end of it and just went, what? How did that get put out there? It was just terrible. Paul again. I'm an Apple fanboy, and you also have worked in marketing, and I think it was a terrible ad. Stupid. Yeah, I think it was. The worrying thing is that they didn't see it was stupid, I think, for me. Their radar is off. And I don't know what it's going to take to get their radar back. And I think that this is the problem. Is like, I think it shows that their radar is off in terms of what consumers want. But B, I think it also makes people see them as just another tech company. And I think that as an Apple fanboy myself too, I think one of the things about Apple is that you kind of want to think that they're different. Right? Maybe they're going to treat my data with a bit more respect. Maybe they're going to emphasize privacy. Maybe they really are in it to make tools for creativity. But I think that the lasting legacy of this ad and this campaign and this product is that I think that they may have changed a few people's views, some of their key consumers' views on that. I think they may have lost some fanboys with this. I think it was crazy. You can't believe I edit on an iPad Pro. You can't live without your MacBook. Yeah, and I used to be like that until I got the iPad Pro and I decided that I wanted a mobile workflow to be able to do everything and not. And I really like the pencil. I tell you, the thing is that when I edit on my iPad Pro, it is all using the pencil, and I would find it really difficult to go to kind of like keystrokes now, or hotkeys or keyboard shortcuts. I think I would find that really difficult, having spent so much time now, having done so many videos now, editing with my iPad pencil. It's like second nature, like muscle memory. It would be really difficult for me to switch now. I wouldn't say impossible. One of the things I am going to get quite soon is as I pick up my frequency of using live streams, is that I think I might get a Stream Deck. If anybody here has got an Elgato Stream Deck in particular, what I'm kind of like tossing up is like, I could get a secondhand one, which has like the 15 keys, or do I go big and get like the one with like, I don't know how many it's got, like 42 keys or something ridiculous like that? Or is it just going to be confusing? Do I just get a secondhand 15 kind of like button Stream Deck just to help automate not just stuff on Stream Deck, but also a lot of the hotkeys around things like editing or navigating around Mac OS or whatever it is that you're using it for, whatever computer you're using it for. If you are using a Stream Deck, I'd be really interested in hearing how you use it and how helpful you find it. But yeah, I edit on an iPad. That's what I do. Paul, yes. Until, for example, the iPad iOS lets you play the same games you can play on your MacBook, not weak copies, then it remains a handy way to watch YouTube on the couch. And I think that's the point. I think a lot of, and that's what the iPad is for, right? The entry-level iPad is for consumption. That's what you use it for. But I think that what the massive misstep was like, this is the iPad Pro. This is a creativity device. And you just smashed creativity in front of your major consumers, your major users who are using it for creativity. Yes, AI has and is changing the game on that, but I just think it was incredibly weird message to be sending out. So yeah, I think, a lot of people do use their tablets, and the iPad is a tablet as a consumption device. And until they have more crossover between Mac OS and iOS, I do think it's going to be a problem. Yeah. The iPad is insanely overpowered for the way it's used. I need to upgrade my iPad, but I will just buy an M1. Yeah, and that's exactly my thinking too. I have an M1 iPad Pro. I don't really see any compelling reason for me to upgrade with that cost to do that. And yeah, the upgrade will require a new case keyboard. Frustrating, but that's the trap we're in. Yeah, and that's what will put me off from upgrading until I can get the funds or see a compelling reason to do so, or they stop supporting my iPad Pro, which at the moment is probably the most likely, but I can't see them stopping supporting an M1 iPad Pro for quite some time to come. I think that would be an incredibly bad look. Thank you so much, Diane. Happy birthday to me. Yes, and yes, we're going to have all of that cake and ice cream stuff later on today as well. Yes. Yes. You say it's a danger point for Apple, but the Windows announcement with recall shows you can't rush this. This was a disaster announcement by MS. Microsoft recall. I haven't seen that. The Windows announcement with the recall. Tell me more about that, or I'll look it up later. I'm not really sure what happened there, but yeah, it's a problem. Adam, you have a 15-key Stream Deck gathering dust on your bookshelf, so you didn't find it that useful then, I'm guessing. I wonder what you thought you were going to use it for, and then why it's kind of gathering dust on your bookshelf. I'm interested in that. Let me know if you've got time to drop something in the comments. Vanessa, ask Mike Kafuzi about the deck. Don't know exactly what he uses, but he live streams 5 days a week. Yeah, I see a lot of creators who use live streaming as their main way of connecting with their audience. I don't think I'm ever going to be that, but I would definitely like. I'm really enjoying this. This is fantastic. I love it. We've been going for 55 minutes, and like time has absolutely flown by, and constantly got somewhere between 6 and 10 people in the live stream. Hopefully, more people will watch it on replay, and more people will come next time I do this. But yeah, I love it. But yeah, I will look that up. Thank you, Vanessa. I will note that down. Look at that. Some love it. Adam, talking about the Stream Deck again, found it to be temperamental at best. Sometimes it flakes out and buttons stop working. Okay, so reliability issue with the software and the integrations. Okay, that's good to know. Um, were there any particular integrations that weren't working well for you? I guess I'd be using it more as a streaming deck than anything else. I know some people use it to automate all kinds of different things on their operating systems, but let me know. You like to keep it simple? Yeah, me too. Like I set up these scenes that you're seeing now, like this. Earlier, well, no, not like this. Like here, I just demonstrated that how simple it was. But yeah, it is pretty simple. Yeah, I like to keep it simple as well, and I don't want anything that's too complicated. But I would like to see. I would like to see how it works, and that's why I'm thinking about buying a second-hand one to start off with, because it's kind of like low investment. If I end up like not liking it, then I could probably sell it again and not lose too much money on it. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah. You did a weekly live stream, found that more complicated I made my show, the more it would go wrong. You removed the stream deck and the show had a better flow. Yeah, and I guess that's my fear as well. How are you finding the flow of this show as I'm going through the transitions and everything? Because I'm loving using it. This is like really easy to use this web-based software where I can set up the scenes beforehand, which didn't take too much work to do. And it's been wonderful. I've really liked it. I'm just wondering what, like you, the reason why I haven't pushed the buy button is I wonder if it would overcomplicate things. What I would love to do, and what I'm going to try and do next week, is I'm going to run this off my iPad when I'm in the airport, in the lounge, before I get on my flight. And I'll tell you more about that a little while as to where I'm going next week as we progress through the live stream. But I'm going to try and run this using my pencil on my iPad, and we'll see how that goes, because I'm really looking forward to that. Oh my God, recall. MS have announced AI integrated into the OS. Yes, I saw that, which will record what you're looking at every few seconds. What? Users will be literally recording everything that they do. I saw that was going to be a possibility, that you could share your screen and it could use that as context. But I didn't realize that you wouldn't be able to switch it off. Like that would be nuts. Like that would be terrible. So yeah, and I will dig into that. If you're not going to be able to actually switch that off, that would be truly terrifying and awful. That would be terrible. Adam again. I was using it with Ecamm Live, automating scene changes and overlays, but that stuff is just frosting on the cake. Yeah, okay. I'm getting you here. I have looked into Ecamm Live. Looks kind of a bit overpowered for what I want to do, and it's reasonably expensive. But yeah, okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Some folks, sorry, I'm reading it out before you've seen it, but some folks swear by it. If you come to San Diego, you can have mine. Last time I was in San Diego, I believe, let me see, 2007. I'll tell you a quick story. When I first moved to New Zealand, it was 2005, right? And it was Valentine's Day, and I found myself, I think it was the first time I was in LA by myself, and I was single as well. I was like, man, I'll go to like a speed dating night. That was a thing then, right? And so I went to this speed dating thing, and I made it very clear. I was like, not really looking for anything. I'm just kind of in town. I thought it'd be a fun thing to do. And yeah, it was fun. And at the end of the night, I kind of like met up with two people who I'd met with no other intention than just going out and having a fun time. Yeah, it was really fun. We had a really great night, just kind of like bopping around all these bars and everything in LA. I ended up having some kind of like party in some hairdresser's kind of like place. It was like fun. Anyway, met up with them for a few years. Every time I was transiting back through LA, and we ended up going through San Diego and then going to Tijuana for the day, which was, I think, actually was the next day on that trip. It was really, really fun. It was really, really good. But yeah, that's the only time I've ever been to San Diego. But I've heard it's a nice city to live in. Adam, you can let me know. I've heard that's good. Nabila, you like the live stream software I'm using now? Yeah, EV Max. I had it recommended, like I say, from Primal Video. I thought I'd give it a try. StreamYard, the free account is fairly limited, but yeah, it's interesting, the kind of like the freemium model, right? There are a few things that I'm going to be able to do if I pay for a EV Max Pro account, which is kind of like comparable to all the other streaming software uh, possibilities. But I do like that it's their server that's doing all the work rather than my computer. And having a good experience in this free product is going to make it far more likely that I'm going to pay, even for 1 month to start off with, just to see what the product is like if I get the Pro and get rid of this kind of like powered by EV Mux thing that's like going on in the corner. So, and also be able to kind of like do other scenes that doesn't have the watermark overlay on top of it. So yeah, I think the freemium is working for them here. It's definitely making me think about that. Back to the Microsoft launch of Recall, privacy invasion to the extreme. Yes, sounds like it. And I've seen it like heavily promoted in terms of the hardware. I'm getting emails here in New Zealand from like hardware providers, electronic stores, really, really going hard on Copilot and AI and the new machines that are going to be coming out with it, and they've already got them on sale in the store. So it's definitely a deliberate strategy here. So you can see what's going on. Okay, yeah, this is the modern way, right? The default is on. You can switch it off, but I bet you it's buried in the settings and it's difficult to do. And it wouldn't surprise me if that every time you restarted the computer, the default switches back to it being on. It's horrible, but yeah, that's the way that modern systems are. They're kind of like set with the thumb, definitely on the scale in favor of the provider rather than the consumer. It sounds terrible, but yeah, I think that's what's happening these days. Nabila, are you using the PC camera or an external camera for the stream? I am using an Insta360 Link. I'm just using a monitor which actually doesn't have a camera. I'm using a Mac M2 Mini in order to run this. That's my home computer these days. I'm using a BenQ monitor, 24-inch monitor, 2K monitor. And I've got an Insta360 Link camera that's doing the work. And this has actually got the portrait filter. This is actually a filter where it blurs the background without me having a green screen. And I think it's actually doing a pretty good job. You can see a little bit of kind of artifact here around my head. The lighting isn't great here today. It's quite dull and grey. I do have like one key light here in front of me, but I think it's doing like an okay job. I don't know what you're thinking, but I've seen like StreamYard does a terrible job with the background removal thing here. So this is not too bad. Adam, happy to take you on a local tour of Tijuana for some of the best tacos you've ever had in your life. Okay, I may have to hold you to that next time. It's a long drive though from LA down to Tijuana, so we'll see. I remember going through border control was a bit dicey at the time as well. I think I just had a British passport at the time, but I remember having to go through this kind of sketchy border control going back into the USA. I was kind of a little bit worried at the time. I remember thinking that. So yeah, yeah. In theory, sounds great, Adam. Let's pencil that in, definitely into the diary. Okay, let me see. Let's talk about my video that I did with the Ace Pro, right? I don't know if you've seen this. I don't know if you know. I've been using I used the Ace Pro quite a lot when I was in Japan. I like the camera. There has been a bit of controversy around it, around the minimum focus distance. But I wasn't finding that I was having a problem with it until I was using it a lot in Japan. Oh, you got a midstream advert, blimey. So YouTube does do that. I click the yes button, so it does work. Crikey. So yeah, I wonder what you thought about it. I'll just play you a clip here if I can of what I was looking at when let's see if I can get this going. What I was looking at when I was thinking about what my footage was looking like and whether it was any good or not. Let's see if I can get this going. It's probably going to say no. Let's try. Here we go. Got that there. Okay, let's go. I have to revise my opinion on the Ace Pro. I may have been wrong about it, so let me explain why. When I first got the Ace Pro, I conducted several tests, but I suppose I was holding the camera at arm's length while vlogging. And in that position, the focus on my face compared to the background seemed perfectly okay, perfectly acceptable. But I was also trying to ensure that I was close enough for decent audio capture using the native mics. However, during my wanderings around Tokyo on my last trip, I held the camera closer to my face because of the crowds and noise, aiming to try and capture my voice clearly. And as a result, the focus on my face was slightly softer compared to the background, which felt wrong. You've probably seen it. Now, I know many people have criticized Insta360 for this minimum focus distance issue on the Ace Pro, and it's manifested itself in my videos. So knowing what I know now, although I love the Ace Pro for the time lapses and the scenery that I captured, such as the Buddha and the bamboo garden, it probably wouldn't be my go-to now option for face vlogging, for really vlogging where you need the camera at a fairly close distance to you. I would now have to choose between the Insta360 Flow and the Go 3. Now, there you go. What do you think about that? Firstly, like, I can't believe how well that worked. Like, I've been like messing around with that yesterday to see if that was going to work. Me playing a YouTube video whilst me being on screen and then being able to comment on it afterwards. And it just worked really well. Firstly, let me just say, that's amazing. I love that. I don't know what you thought about that. But yeah, I've used the Ace Pro now for a while, like I said, and I just noticed when I was watching them play on YouTube, I was like, yeah, I'm not particularly happy with how that's worked. And the Go 3 does a much better job, I think, of minimum distance focus, even though it's kind of 2.7K. I do like it. It's a bit more distorted as well, I find sometimes. The Ace Pro does a better job of kind of like keeping a more kind of like a flat linear profile. But I do think that there is a minimum focus issue, which changed as my use case changed. When I was in Japan, I actually loved having it as a camera that I use for, that Buddha, that dynamic movement of the time lapse you can get straight out of the app. There's 4 different choices that come straight out of the app that you can use, and all of that works like incredibly well. I love being able to fix an external mic onto it. In retrospect, I probably should have used the external mic a little bit more because I ended up, like I say, holding a bit closer because I was using those mics. But the external mics, because you have to use an adapter for the Ace Pro and many action cameras, just kind of makes it a little bit bulky on the outside. So it's a little bit difficult to use and just kind of like pull it out of your pocket and just use it like straight away. And that's the beauty of the Go 3, is that you can just pull it out of your pocket or just stick it on your head or stick it on the magnet and use it straight away. And that's what I do love about the Go 3, is that for me, the convenience beats 4K quality, absolutely beats it. And if I'm going to use just the external mics, then why not just use the Go 3? With the Flow, I can use the external mic and just have it sticking out of my iPhone. And I can just have the Flow in my pocket and then stick it onto my iPhone and use that as my camera. And that's the other alternative, which I used in my August trip in Japan, and which you are about to see over the next few weeks and months, a lot more footage from that trip, which I just haven't had time to process. But I'll be putting a lot more to like Japan travel guides using my Insta360 Flow. So yeah, that was my video that I kind of like put out. If you haven't watched the whole thing, you might find it quite interesting about was I wrong about the Ace Pro. Now, a few people have not liked the fact that I got it wrong. I've noticed I've lost a few subscribers, but I've gained a few as well, and the comments have been pretty encouraging. So yeah, interested in what you think about that. Is it okay for a creator to change their mind? I know a lot of people, come to me when I'm talking about new gear, but I don't have like forever to be testing it out. Often it's like my first impressions, or like this is a month of me using this. If I was going to do another video about the Ace Pro, I would say if you're thinking about face vlogging, I would be using an external mic and thinking about how close you had it to you. And I would be thinking about what's the totality of use of the action camera for you. If you're going to be using it mainly as a vlogging device, then I would be careful. I would be thinking about using particular methods to do that, or perhaps using something else instead. Okay. Nabila, do I use only Insta360 cameras? No, I don't. I used to use a DJI Pocket. The original one, I had that. More recently, yes, I have used Insta360 because I don't use GoPros. The last GoPro I used kind of like a lot was probably my Hero 7. I do have a Hero 12, but I don't like the workflow of how the app works. You have to subscribe in order to get the best out of the app. And then the workflow is that it's actually really difficult to get footage off a GoPro and then use it in the way that you want to use it. You just have to take a few more steps. And then I use my iPhone a lot. I do have a Sony ZV-1, which I haven't really used a lot for vlogging, just because it's a little bit heavier and it's also not particularly waterproof or showerproof even, because it has those mics on the top and it has the kind of like extending zoom mechanism as well. And unfortunately, it does kind of rain a lot and it's quite windy here in Wellington. Now that I'm traveling a bit more, I may take the Sony ZV-1 out with me, but there's another camera that I've got on my radar, which I might look at, and I'll talk about that maybe next after this little segment here. I'm looking at the broadcast time here. This is fantastic. Thank you all for staying with me. This is lovely of you all. If you do want to carry on with me, if you want to drop me out a super chat or join as a membership, it's really, really low cost to support my channel. I would be very grateful and happy to have you on board. So thank you for that. Let me just get some of these banners off and we'll go back to the comments. Let's have a look. The DJI Pocket 3 is really good apart from when it rains. Yeah, and I guess that's the problem. I did look at the DJI Pocket 3, but you won't believe it. New Zealand is a small market. The creator combo, which is what I'd be interested in getting, because I would be interested in testing the DJI Mic 2 as well, sold out. I had back ordered out. There's not a single one that you can get in New Zealand now. So yeah, that's really interesting. I would be interested in trying the DJI Pocket 3, but it would be an expensive investment. I looked into it. It's going to be like best part of $1,500 for the creator combo here in New Zealand. So that's tricky with everything else. Vanessa, would you choose the X4 over the Ace Pro for vlogging, or the Go 3? It's never wrong to change your mind in the face of new facts and information. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's kind of like what I try and teach my kids as well. It's like, you don't have to be dogmatic. Find a position and just stick to it no matter what. When you change your mind in the face of new information, it's actually a signal of strength and the fact that you are flexible. And flexibility is really, really good. It can be annoying for people. Some people say, well, you said this and now you're saying this. It's like, yeah, the facts change. So yeah, I changed my mind. That's what people do. Would I use the X4 over the Ace Pro for vlogging, or the Go 3? Go 3 for me is what I would choose. I love the X4. Personally, as I said in this, was I wrong about the Ace Pro video? What I go on to say in that video is that I use the X3 and the X4 more for B-roll. So get some interesting shots. I can just shoot once and then choose the shot that I want afterwards, the actual reframe that I want afterwards, or I can use it for really interesting kind of like 8K time lapses as well and render them out in 4K. I personally would use the Go 3 for face vlogging. That's what I would choose in my situation. just because I don't necessarily want to be walking around with a selfie stick and vlogging with that and then having the external mic. I prefer much more of a down low key kind of like a approach for vlogging, so I can just have it in my pocket, crack it out, and then just talk in a low key way and then put it away. I have a video coming out next week on my trip to London, which I took last month, where it became very apparent to me that filming on planes is going to become a problem. And I think it'll be much more difficult to vlog in that kind of a situation with an X4 than it would be with a Go 3, which you can just do quickly and privately yourself. More on that if you watch the video that comes out on Monday. Nabila, I don't like GoPro at all. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I think they are good at doing particular things. The dog's just walked in to say hello. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain. There is the new creator combo with the DJI Mic 2 complete set. Well, you get two. You get two mics. That's pretty good. I imagine it's pretty expensive, but I can imagine it would go down pretty well with a lot of creators. LiDAR, hope you have a great birthday. Thank you so much. It's been a great birthday so far. I'm really, really enjoying it. The link controller has just told me that it's because I keep doing this. That's a signal to the link that to get kind of like go into whiteboard mode, and it doesn't like it. So it keeps telling me, because it does have like AI gesture control, like the Insta360 X4 now has as well, and also the Flow. That's one of the reasons why I like the Flow, is that it does have gesture control. So not only does it have deep tracking, so it will follow you around, you can also switch it on and off from being reasonably far away from it. And if you have an external mic, it's fantastic. Honestly, the Flow is a really underrated smartphone gimbal, I think. Nabila, by the way, never buy a camera or a phone in Japan. You will not have the possibility to turn off the sound for recording. Interesting. Right. I did get an iPhone in 2015 and it was a pain. I guess it's the law there, right? That it has to make a noise so that people know that you're going to be filming or recording. Yeah, so it's interesting that you don't have the ability to switch that off cameras that you buy in Japan. I'm just trying to think. I think I bought, what was it called? An Exilum V8. You know the Casio? Do you remember back to the Casio Exilum range? The S1 and the S2, the tiny sort of like credit card size cameras. So I had one of those. I think I had an S3. And then I bought a V8 when I was in Japan back in 2007, which was kind of like slightly thicker with a kind of like a telescopic zoom lens that was built in. I still have some of those photos and videos on my cloud, Apple Cloud Photos. I can't remember whether I could turn off the shutter sound or not off that, but it's a good point. I do think it is the law there. So it's a good tip from Nabila. Thank you. The struggles for those of us that peek with our hands as well. Peek with our hands? Could you explain a little bit more about that? That would be peek with our hands. I'm trying to think, what did I say that was relevant to that? Let me know a bit more in the chat. Nabila, you get the camera and the battery and the mic 2 set with 2 mics and the transmitter. Wow, I didn't know you could get that now. I know the original creator combo because they kind of soft launched the DJI Mic 2 with that, didn't they? Before they actually put it out, like for real, as a creator set. So yeah, that's really cool that you get the whole Mic 2 set with 2 mics and the transmitter. How long has the DJI Pocket 3 been out now? I guess it's been out for about 6 months, maybe a little bit more than that. Interested to see. I did wonder whether Insta360 were going to go out with some kind of gimbal camera, because the Insta360 Link, which I'm using now, is essentially like a gimbal camera. It's got that tiny little gimbal camera on top, and I don't know whether they're working on that or developing that, but I have asked them, but I've never got a reply back to see if they are thinking about developing that. But I don't think it would be a great stretch for them to do that, because I love the Insta360 Link. I think it's a great webcam. Don't think it would be a great stretch to turn that into a different kind of a product to rival the DJI Pocket 3. But again, I don't know if they really want to get into that market. Oh, speak with our hands. Sorry, yeah, speak with our hands. I get it now. Yeah, totally, totally. Those of us that speak with our hands, totally me, totally me. In fact, I find that if I'm not speaking with my hands, I tend to get really small, and my voice tends to get really flat as well if I'm not using my hands. So yeah, I do tend to speak with my hands, and yeah, that can be a bit of a problem. I always forget to turn that feature off before I go out. Yes, Italians would really freak out using gesture control. Don't think it's just Italians. I think it's lots of ask Nabila. Maybe she would know. Yeah, I speak with my hands a lot. Nabila, the iPhone for sure is blocked with sounds. They do it for the law since tourists do not respect their traditions. There is a really, really big issue with tourists not respecting traditions at the moment. I don't know if you saw that video of that kind of creator who went to Team Lab Planets. Um, was it Team Lab Planets? Yeah, and then dived into the pool and then started swimming. That caused like a massive controversy in Japan of like how disrespectful that was. And he was like, well, this is kind of like an open exhibit. It's like, yeah. And it also says very clearly, do not do that in here. And now also tourists have been banned from the geisha district in Kyoto because they kept disobeying the signs of not following people and being respectful about where and when they were taking pictures. So there is a real issue, I think. It seemed like everybody went to Japan sort of like March, April this year. I was there slightly before the big rush because like the weather was fairly terrible. It was kind of mid-February to end of February. But I remember being there last August and hearing a lot of Spanish and Italian and all kinds of like languages being spoken in some really out of the way places in Japan, not really in the tourist trail. So yeah, it has become very popular, and I think that there is an issue, and this is just a small part of that you're speaking about, Nabila. So yeah, that's really interesting. You make that point. Um, Vanessa, oh, thank you for answering our questions. You're very relatable and speak clearly and slowly enough to understand you. So many tech reviewers speak a mile a minute. I actually think I speak reasonably quickly, but thank you. I am really glad that it is relatable and understandable to you. And thank you so much for the birthday wishes and for your subscription. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks, Vanessa. That's really cool. Um, I have been 3 months in Japan in 2015, and the worst tourists were the Chinese. Um, I couldn't possibly comment on that. It was interesting though. I did speak to a few people about this when I was in Japan. I have friends who are tour guides in Japan, and I was asking them, and they said the Chinese were coming, but not in as great numbers as they were before. And I think that's probably globally like the same story. There's a lot less tourism overseas by Chinese, but the number of other nations are kind of more than making up for it. In New Zealand, one of the things that we've noticed is that we have fewer Chinese coming over, certainly just like the other global trends, but we're also like really reliant on tourism from Australia here in New Zealand, and that has really not picked up much at all. So that's been really interesting in terms of global movements since the pandemic kind of like acute phase kind of like came to an end and countries started reopening again, how different the movement patterns have been. So yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see. Hey Richard, how you doing? Nice to see you. Any cake left? No, we scoffed it all. I'm sorry, it's all gone. You had to be here earlier. No, we haven't opened the cake yet. No cake here right now. Actually, we're going to wait until my girls are home. We may not even do it today. We may make it an entire birthday weekend or month. Who knows? We might just have cake every day for a month. But thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you popping in. That's really cool. It's quite late for you now, right? Must be like, what, almost 11:30 in the UK? Yeah. Paul needs slide out. Happy birthday, coffee week after next. Yep, definitely. Let's do that. Paul actually lives kind of like a few miles up the road from me. How do we met through cricket, actually going to watch cricket. Just ended up kind of like sat next to each other and got talking. And yeah, great for you. Great you being part of the community and being so putting in so many comments today, Paul. Really enjoyed our chat. That's really cool. I'm sticking around a bit longer. Let's move on to the next section because there's a new camera coming out, which I think is quite interesting. I haven't looked too much into it, but I just kind of like want to put it on your radar as well. Let's just slide this comment out as well. Yeah, feel free to post more comments, everyone. I'd love to be able to say hi to everyone here. Let's just put this up here, and we'll just take this one off, and let's talk about this one. Have you seen? There's a new camera which is like a full frame digital camera that's coming out from Panasonic called the S9, and this looks actually really interesting to me. It's new from Panasonic. I'll just go along the slides here. Let's hopefully this will. Oh, isn't that cool? Oh, that's not cool. But yeah, most of it is cool. Yeah, here we go. The S9 is designed to simplify and speed up the social media workflow. It actually records in this kind of new format that they're using called MP4 Lite. And from what I've read, if anybody else knows more, please correct me. It seems to be limited to 50 megabits per second in terms of like the bit rate of recording. So it's designed for, and I think that's perfectly acceptable for social media, but it is definitely designed for social media. And this is, I think it's going to retail at around about $1,500. It's definitely going to be competing with that Sony ZV-1 or E1 kind of like audience. And it's something that I'm quite interested in as well. It will record in this kind of 4K in 25 or 30 frames per second. Interestingly, it won't have 24 frames per second, just 25 or 30. And it uses a 6K sensor, and it scales down, it oversamples, it brings it down to 4K, but it means that you can crop into that and get either portrait or landscape out of that in 4K. It says here you can do up to 60 frames per second with an APS-C crop. So not using the whole sensor, you can actually get 60 frames per second. If you are if you want to film action and then slow it down afterwards, you can still do that. But the interesting thing, after the launch, sort of like at the end of this month, beginning of next month, is that this social media focused workflow, they're going to make it much easier for people to kind of get the footage off the camera onto their phones and process it on their phones really quick. And there's a little quote here saying the camera with it, Panasonic describes this as the ability to shoot, edit, and share in 30 seconds. While 30 seconds may be a bit optimistic, this review is from DP Review, by the way. It's important to understand that this social media workflow underpins the camera's features and design choices. Yeah, this is supposed to be, I think, a social media workhorse. I'd be really interested in looking at this more carefully. It's the sort of camera that I might look at getting, even ahead of something like the DJI Pocket 3. This is the sort of thing which I think could be a multi-purpose camera that I can use in lots and lots of different ways. So yeah, I am interested in this camera. It has this kind of like real-time LUT system as well, which is not new to Panasonic, but I think it is new in the way that they've used it. So you can kind of apply color transformations really quickly on your social media workflow. And I think it would be really useful for my workflow as well. It looks like a really interesting, nice little bit of kit. So yeah, that's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, certainly at the end of this month. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get hold of it here in New Zealand very easily. But I guess what I will be talking about is like, well, what are my plans? What am I going to be doing over the next wee while? I did mention to you earlier, let me just get this back on screen. I did mention to you earlier that I'm going to be going to the airport next Wednesday. So yeah, tune in next week and I will be live streaming, hopefully, from the airport lounge before I get on the flight. It'll be slightly earlier than today. But I'm actually going to Queenstown in New Zealand. You may have heard of it. Beautiful place, lots of mountains, big Lake Wakatipu right in the middle of town. You can get a cable car up to the mountain and back. I don't know if I'm actually going to have time for that, but I'll certainly be aiming to film an X4, a couple of X4, Insta360 X4 vlogs with that, where you're going to be able to scroll around on your screen and hear me talking, see me talking, but also have a look around. And I'll just be like walking slowly around the waterfront. That's going to be my intention. For you to have a really good look around Queenstown, because the video that I put out a couple of weeks ago of just me standing quite close to Wellington Airport seems to have been quite popular. And I wasn't really even speaking then. So this is like a little bit of an experiment of getting some immersive 360 8K video with the Insta360 X4, just to show what it's capable of doing in a very, very beautiful environment. So yeah, take a look at that when that comes out. Richard, it is a dark and wet night there. Yeah, I was talking to my parents and she said my mum was saying that it's got so cold that they actually had to put the heating back on again after like having a little bit of a warm stretch. So yeah, dark and wet. Not good. It's pretty dark here today. Outside it's not a great day, but for us we're kind of like autumn, just about to head into winter. So yeah, more understandable. But you know, springtime in the UK, who knows what would happen there. All right, Nabila, I use my Nikon camera only for photography. The cameras are somehow too bulky for me. Is the pan a point and shoot, or has it lenses? It does have lenses. I saw one creator saying that they were probably going to get like a pancake lens for it. I think it is interchangeable lenses, but they were going to use it as a kind of like a point and shoot with a pancake lens on it. So I think it is going to be flexible. I think it is supposed to be pretty small. I don't think it's going to suit everyone. I just thought it was an interesting proposition from a camera brand that I've never actually used. Well, I wouldn't say never. Used to have a Panasonic a very long time ago, even before they brought out the Lumix range, I think. So I haven't used a Panasonic camera for a long time, but people have kind of like, you know, sworn by it. Loads of creators use Panasonic cameras and have done as their daily drivers and their workhorses for their video for quite a long time. Personally, I've always used Fujifilm, but I haven't found them useful for kind of like this kind of like use. I still have a Fujifilm X-T1 that I use when I'm going out taking photos. I've taken some really nice ones. I have an X100S, which is the second in the X100 series. And I have a tiny Fujifilm XQ1, which takes, you know, in decent light, it takes some really good photos and it has a little built-in zoom lens. And often that's the point and shoot that I'll carry around with me if I'm on a bigger trip. Speaking of bigger trips, so yeah, I was going to, thank you for the feedback because I'm still experimenting in that. I actually turned it up probably a bit too much, but thank you for the feedback there, Nabila. That's really good to know if I use this in future. The heat here in Switzerland, the weather is awful. The heating is still on. Are you in a particularly mountainous area? Are you quite high up? It's a bit cooler there because of that. Not really sure. Cake. Okay, everyone. This is my wife. She's wonderful, and cake every day for a month is possible. You see, I'm such a lucky man. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. I used to have a Lumix and loved it, Nabila. Okay, cool. And how did you use your Lumix, Nabila? Let me know what you used to use it for. Was it just photography, or did you use it for video as well? I think that this new Panasonic S9. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think recall reading that it has IBS, so inbuilt camera body stabilization. I think 5 stops, which is pretty good, I think, for the size of that camera. So that is pretty good in-camera stabilization that you're going to get with that, I think. Yeah. So yeah, what am I doing? So for the next, I got this trip next week, and then for the whole of June, I'm just here. I'll be here in Wellington, and I'm just going to be kind of like putting out videos and live streams. I think in July, I've got a day trip to Christchurch for a day, which is going to be great. I haven't been to Christchurch for a while. I used to spend a lot of time in Christchurch when I was helping kind of like the response and the recovery to the Canterbury earthquakes back in 2010, 2011. did that for about 7 years afterwards. So yeah, I know Christchurch quite well. I have a soft spot for it, definitely. So it'd be nice to go back. And then my next big trip is going to be back to the UK. I'm going to be going into like mid-September, and I'm going to be traveling via Shanghai in China this time. So I've got, I think, 2 or 3 days in Shanghai sorted out, and another day on the way back. Then I'll be in London, possibly going to Edinburgh to go and visit my friends. And this is shameful, but for all of those people who are in the UK, I've never been to Edinburgh. I have been to Scotland, been to Fort William, and Ben Nevis defeated our trip because it was just disgusting weather on the weekend that we tried to conquer it. So we didn't make it up there. So we spent the rest of that afternoon in a pub, I believe. And then, so yeah, we'll be going to Edinburgh to go and visit some friends. And then I'm going to Lisbon. I'm going to Portugal. I've never been to Portugal before in my life. So I'm really looking forward to that. And we were talking about coffee culture beforehand. I hear that Portugal does magnificent coffee and has its own coffee culture of its own. Also, other places that have like incredible coffee culture. Hanoi. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Hanoi or Vietnam and had an egg coffee. I know, egg coffee. Sounds weird, but actually was really, really nice. Really, really enjoyed it. I actually have some friends who have just finished in Vietnam. They're in the UK at the moment, and Nabila, they're actually going to be in Zurich, I think, in the second half of June. And I am going to be bringing them onto a live stream and talk about their travel and tech experience over the last wee while. So that's something that you can look forward to from me. Is every now and again on these regular live streams, I'm going to be trying to do them weekly when I can. I'm going to be bringing guests on every now and again who have some kind of angle of travel, tech, and how they're using it in their lives. So hopefully we'll be able to have some really interesting conversations as well as just with me. I'll be bringing some guests on board onto the live streams as well. Nabila is only 300 meters above sea level, 10 kilometers from the border to Italy. Oh, you must have such an interesting kind of like mixture of cultures and food and everything living where you do. That's really cool. One day, I hope to possibly live somewhere like that for a period in my life. Somewhere like Geneva would be really cool, so you can access to things like that. Yeah, you never know. At the time, Nabila, you say you were using it only for photography. Your Lumix, cool. Vanessa, sometimes I miss the days of film cameras. Every picture was carefully thought out. You only had 32 pictures max and had to shoot carefully, and you never knew what you caught until developed. I totally agree with you. I remember like the films would come in like either 24 exposures or 36 exposures, I think. Maybe it was different where you were. So yeah, you had to shoot carefully. I remember it was a treat. It was a treat. My mum would buy me a new film. And then not only that, but you kind of like, we used to send them away to a laboratory to be developed. So you send them away in this like prepaid envelope. But the cool thing is that maybe a week later, 2 weeks later, you not only got these photos back, and it was always a surprise as to what you got back, but it was pretty cheap, much cheaper than it is now because, everyone was doing it. So it was done at scale. But you also got a film back as well. And I remember some companies would send you Konica film, some companies would send you Agfa film, and some companies would send you Fujifilm. And sometimes I would choose the company that I was going to send it to, depending upon what kind of film I wanted to get back. I remember using Fuji quite a lot, but I also really liked the Konica film. I remember deliberately choosing the Konica film, and I loved the way that the colors were rendered. And I think that's why I like the Fujifilm cameras that I have, because of the film simulations that it has built in. So yeah, I know lots of people shoot in RAW and they do all the post-processing on, Photoshop and all the rest of it. I like the easy way. So I like Fujifilm because of the different Fujifilm simulations. You can shoot in RAW, and then you can apply different film simulations in camera if you really, really want to. And so you can have the same photo and just do it all in camera and then export it out. It's fantastic. I love cameras that can do that. And it kind of replicates a little bit that kind of like film experience for me. Although, that kind of careful consideration of your filming of your shooting because you only have 36 exposures is really cool. I like that. Um, I guess I use the Go 3 in that way a little bit, in that I don't tend to shoot massive loads of footage. I tend to use it very sparingly, shoot what I want, which is often just like a few seconds, and then stop. And so I'm very kind of like intentional about how I use my Go 3. And I think that started off interestingly because when I first got it, I think it only had the original Go only had like 8 gigs in it. And sure, it only filmed in 720p, but you were limited not only by only having 8 gigs, but also by the battery life. So it's interesting how these limitations force us to use our equipment much more intentionally. And I think, having massive amounts of memory and massive amounts of battery can lead us to be quite flabby in our choices and not intentional. We just say, oh, I'll just shoot it and I'll edit it later. Believe me, it's so much harder to edit when you've got a ton of footage than when you've been really intentional about your footage. And I think that goes for videography as well as it goes, as you said, with kind of like old school film photography as well. I think the principles are the same. When you're limited by battery life and by the amount of capacity that you have for storage, I think you shoot in a very, very different way for both photography and video. At least that's what it does for me as well. Yeah. Nabila, near the coast in Portugal, you need to eat fresh food. Yeah, I've heard this. I've heard that the seafood is really good. Fish, yes, fish especially. Oops, yeah, here we go. Fish, yeah. I'm not a great seafood fan. Like, I'm not into shellfish and stuff like that, but fish, I love. I really, really love. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. Oh, Travel 1609. Happy birthday, my friend. Thanks for introducing me to the Go 3. You're welcome. We really enjoyed your Japan vlogs. Great work. Oh, thank you so much. I'm a little bit sad that I've come to the end of that series. I really, really enjoyed the discipline that I had there as well. I was filming intentionally, not filming too much, and filming, editing, and uploading on the same day, or at least the next morning as much as possible. So part of my routine became, going to a coffee shop the next morning. Things in Japan don't tend to open till like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. So I'd be up, go for a walk, have some breakfast. And from like 8 till 10, I'd be in a coffee shop kind of editing. And that was fun. I loved being out in public, being around in Japan, in Japanese coffee culture, and just sipping my coffee and editing. It was perfect. I loved spending my mornings in that way. Thank you so much for your wishes. Can I also say thank you so much for everybody being in this live stream? It's been so much fun. The time has just whizzed by. I don't think I've ever done a live stream this long and had so much engagement. The software has been really good for that, but also you've been fantastic today. Thank you so much. Nabila, in Zurich, it's 2.5 hours from here. If there's no traffic at the Gotthard Pass, it's a nightmare in the summer with summer traffic here. Yeah, I imagine it's very, very popular and lots of people kind of passing through one place and another. Yeah, I imagine being in Europe is actually quite a shock once kind of like you leave New Zealand. And being in Asia is quite a shock as well. It's just the number of people. This is a country around the same size as the UK. 65, 70 million people now? 5 million people here. And though, yes, they're all concentrated mainly in the cities, but it's still pretty empty. You have fewer transport options. Traffic can be terrible because there are fewer road options as well. So yeah, we have our own issues, but certainly the number and also infrastructure too. When we have like even not many tourists, things can fall over and not work, and you can have massive queues. But yeah, New Zealanders are not used to kind of like queuing, although they are becoming more so. Yeah. Yeah. It could have been 36. It's been decades. Yeah. For us, certainly it was 24 or 30 seconds. Sometimes you get a bonus. I remember sometimes you get 37 photos back because, you used to kind of, because I used to have like a manual film wind on. Do you remember those? Like sometimes on those old like 110 cameras, it had like a little cog wheel that you did across. But if it was like an SLR camera, I used to have like an Olympus Trip as well. Do you remember those? Olympus Trip 35. Like they were really, really popular. And I used to kind of like, I used to have like a thumb wind as well. And sometimes you get an extra exposure at the end. So you get 37 photos back. And I remember like, when you would load the film up into the camera, you need to wind it on a couple of times for you to get to the actual film. But you try to be really careful with that to try to maximize the possibility of getting 37. I think even a few times I got 38. That was a real bonus. I remember because like the developing company would just like they just develop what was on the film, right? They weren't that bothered about how many there actually were. They would just develop the film and send it back to you. So yeah, that was always like a fun. Nabil, I love the USA e-getter, the one you had and used only once. The film, once with film integrated, was a good option for low budget. Yeah, I know. I think I know the ones you mean. And of course, you get modern disposables now as well that you can like send off, but they're never as good. Like you have very little control on those. It's just kind of like fixed focus, um, standard kind of like exposure. But yeah, they're fun. I've got another little alternative that I will show you. I'm not going to say too much. In a video coming up in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I have thought about that. I remember this 120 roll films. We used to have a 120 camera. Yeah, a 120, yeah, 12 exposures max. I remember those because they came up with those two like reels, with like a flat bit, and they had the two reels, and you just preloaded that into your camera. And the 110s were like thinner, and they still had the two reels, but the 120s were kind of like wider across. I remember, and you'd put those in, and yeah, that's how you got your you loaded the film in the camera. You don't have to do winding on or anything. I remember those. Yeah. Used to lug a Hasselblad 500C around with lenses and camera backs. Oh yeah, because they had interchangeable camera backs. I remember those. Never had one, but I used to see other people using them. Yeah, insane. The amount of gear that you used to have to carry. You think about some of these old school photographers with like the Bellows cameras, like Ansel Adams, and like the tripods and all the stuff they used to have to carry around. I mean, this is like really, really old school. But yeah, those old Hasselblads with the camera backs, yeah, yeah, absolutely insane. And now we look at what we have available with us now, and people like complain about, I pay $500 for this Insta360 X4 and it only records 8K in a sphere. Oh, that's not what I paid for. I paid for 8K in my reframe footage. I don't know if they actually talk like that, but it's kind of annoying that we take for granted the massive development cycle that we have. And yeah, sometimes I think camera companies, I think Insta360 is guilty of this. I think other camera companies are guilty of this. They probably put it out to market a lot quicker than they probably could do. And they use the first sort of like month or two and they'll put firmware updates out to correct some of the stuff which they probably could have done before, but they want to get it out to market as soon as possible because they have marketing deadlines, they have product cycle life lines, they need to get it out for, the sales period before Christmas or whatever. It's not necessarily the product quality that's determining when products come out. But still, even with that, I think we live in a time where the products that we have access to are just incredible. But I do think that we need to kind of like probably be a bit more intentional about how we use these things with seemingly limitless capabilities. And that's my rant for today. All right, everyone. I'm getting the heads up that this live stream, because I'm on the free plan, will stop after 2 hours. Now, I did put like a 10-minute timer in to count people into the live stream today. So that's why you're probably wondering, wait, Sarb, it's still only 10 to. But yeah, that's what I've done today. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such fun to spend almost 2 hours with you on my birthday this morning. I thought my voice was going to give out, but it's actually been incredibly fun and my voice is feeling all right. But I do need another cup of coffee now. So I'm going to go and do that. Don't forget, super chats, memberships, subscribe, all of that cool stuff. And I will see you next week. I hope to see you there. It'll be Wednesday morning, New Zealand time. I'll send out a link. You can click it on it to be notified when I go online, all that kind of jazz. So I will leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much. And have a great evening, day yourself, and stay tuned for more videos, one coming out tomorrow. See you, everyone.